What's up? It's Andy Grammer with Jag.
Hi, this is Carly Rae Jepsen, and you're listening to Jag.
Hey everybody, it's Joe Jonas hanging with Jag.
This is Heather Knox with the hottest Jag I've ever seen.
Ryan Seacrest with Jag.
It's B.O.B. checking in with my homie Jag. So much swag with my homie Jag.
It's the Jag Show podcast.
Welcome in. I am John Jag Gay. As always, we are going to start this week with a tip that I learned myself as a podcaster this week, and that is don't be afraid to break the format. It's good to have general rules for your podcast, length, topic, that sort of thing. But unlike a radio show or a TV show, if something comes along that is compelling enough, it's okay to break your own rules. My rules that I set are generally my 5-Minute Friday podcasts are just that, right around 5 minutes, and my interviews that I release on Tuesdays are about 30. Well, this past week I had the pleasure of speaking with Mistress Carrie, a rock DJ goddess from Boston and WAAF, legendary rock station, who has left radio and begun a career in podcasting. I've been a fan and respected Carrie in the radio industry for a long time. Finally got to know her over the last several months. And I asked her about radio, about WAAF, and really interestingly, about being an embedded reporter with Massachusetts troops in both Iraq and Afghanistan. She's a rock DJ, but became an embedded reporter and was with these units overseas. The content was so good, and even though, number one, it veered away from podcasting, and number two, it was a lot longer than I usually go, I kept it all in. My 30-minute show was an hour this week, and I maintain that if you listen to it, it's worth it. So that's my lesson of the week. Have rules, but know when to break them. A lot to get to in the world of podcasting news this week. Starting off with the launch of the Black Podcasting Awards. In the last couple years that I've been to podcast movement, it's been really encouraging to see that podcasting has gone from a traditional white male-dominated business to trying to bring in a much larger tent of people. Race, color, religion, gender, doesn't matter. Everybody is welcome. So it's good to see that the Black Podcasting Awards are now taking shape. If you want to know more about it, the website is blackpodawards.com. That is in my show notes. Related to race issues, CNN's Don Lemon has a new podcast about the racial divide in America. It is called Silence is Not an Option, if you want to check that out. Speaking of CNN, they've got a profile on Spotify and the massive hundreds of millions of dollars worth of money they've invested into podcasting. So an interesting sit-down on CNN with Spotify. That is also linked from my show notes. James Cridland of Pod News, who is kind of the dean of all podcasting news, says, don't neglect the TuneIn app. Make sure your podcast is available on the TuneIn app. TuneIn listening could be up to 8 times as much as you thought, keeping in mind that for a long time, the default music player on Alexa devices, if you haven't set it up differently, is TuneIn. If you're not on TuneIn, it takes about 30 seconds to sign up. Got a link in the show notes to get you all squared away there. Reuters, you may have heard of them, the news wire service. They actually have a new platform that's giving podcasters access to about 500,000 of the news clips from their years and years and years. If you wanted to use that clip in your show, you can sign up for their service. That link also in the show notes. Edison Research, who are always at the forefront of podcast data, they say that the percentage of podcasts listened to at home has gone way up during the pandemic, from 44% of overall listening to 70% of overall listening. No surprise, folks are at home. They might be listening at work. That work just might be happening at home. Interesting news here. SiriusXM has bought Simplecast, which is my preferred hosting platform where I host my podcast and my client podcast. A disclaimer, I am a referral partner of Simplecast. Here are my big takeaways from SiriusXM buying Simplecast. Number one, it shows me that yet another big media company wants in. And number two, I think I chose the right platform. Note here, SiriusXM, of course, already owns Pandora and the ad service AdsWiz, but they do promise in the note they sent to all of us not to place ads in your show unless you want them. So don't worry about a big company coming in and spamming your show with a bunch of ads you didn't ask for. It's only going to be with your consent, but we'll be interested to see how this plays out. And finally, Joe Rogan, not the only big name to land a deal with Spotify. Kim Kardashian West has just signed a contract with them as well. I mention this so that I can put the names Joe Rogan and Kim Kardashian in my show notes and transcript and hopefully help my SEO. That's it for this week's edition of the Jag Show podcast. Hope you'll join me on Tuesday when I talk to the founder of the Podcast Editors Club on Facebook and somebody who's put together a lot of events for podcast editors. Mr. Steve Stewart is my guest on Tuesday. Until then, have a great weekend. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Later.
Thanks for listening to the Jag Show podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe in Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes are published every Tuesday and Friday morning. For help with your podcast, find Jag on social media at Jag in Detroit or on the web at jagindetroit.com.